That's actually a relatively equal fight. So it is 427,000 infantry against 532, 150,000 cavalry against 46,000, 119 artillery against 195. So the artillery and the infantry is on Vern's side, but the cavalry is overwhelmingly on the Lorentish side, because Lorent and Anbennar are fighting together here. Although Anbennar is still in their own war against Coruvia and Luciand, which doesn't seem to be going amazingly well. They've actually lost 250,000 troops already in that fight. Although Bjornrik's actually fighting on Anbennar's side in that one. But I don't know how long that's going to continue. And this is going to be Lorent's opportunity to kick Vern out of this side of the continent. Now, did Anbennar get involved? They did. Anbennar is also fighting on the Vern side. So actually they had one extra player. I missed the Anbennar. And I'm sure that Marhold's going to be watching this. I'm sure that Kreinvar's going to be watching this. Small country on Anbennar's side in this war. No, small country is also fighting against Vern. And also helping Anbennar against Luciand. So we've got Conwell and co coming in to siege down Bisan. In fact, one thing we should do is go to the diplomatic overview. We'll take this from Lorent's perspective because they're only in the one fight. So this is the League War. It is the entirety of the New World versus the western side of Anbennar plus Anbennar versus the eastern side of Anbennar plus Eberthil. This is a remarkably even League War. I like this. Small country and Bjornrik are on the same side in the war helping Anbennar, so it's a bit of a gaming move where the small country couldn't join in. Gotcha. I mean, this has been the danger that Faceless has been in for such a long time. I'm a little surprised by how quickly Bjornrik chewed through Morbob's fort and Fodemad's fort. They are upgraded to level 4, and I think level 4 is the most modern. No, level 6 is. Oh no, it is level 4. My bad. Yeah, level 4. Although I do feel like forts are a lot less effective in this game than they used to be. But I've been foreseeing this for too long. The Gnomish hierarchy has just done nothing to curtail Bjornrik's expansion into Goward, and have not taken any Gowardy territories for themselves at all. And they were just kind of asking for that with being so passive, I'm sorry to say. As much as I love the gnomes, they needed to do more. What side's Mindboy on? I would imagine the anti-Vern side? Is Mindboy even here? There is no Mindboy. He's lost connection, I guess. Yes, currently AI. Although Neckliffe is helping Gnomish Hierarchy. But I'm not sure that that would have been enough. So the Gnomes are starting to siege that back again, but Bjornrik's already on their capital. And is moving troops back, and Bjornrik's just got so many more. 99,000 against 380,000. Would be better for a small country to take the coast. Yeah, I mean, small country did actually take out Riveria, as we kind of assumed they would as soon as that truce was up. Lorent's armies are still down here sieging all of Pearl's Edge. Anbennar and small country are starting to move into Luciand. Conwell is going after Ashiand together with Anbennar. Is Ashiand? Yeah, Ashiand is one of the Regent Court nations. So they're basically taking the Regent Court on this side and taking Coronites on this side. It's just a swap of territory and it's going to be roughly equal. This is a show superiority war though. This is going to be all about the battles. Trying to pour myself some tea while also watching everything. Let's keep an eye on this. Yeah, unfortunately we just missed the battle where the gnomes got squished. Damn. It's hard to know where to look. Do we look at the dismembering of the gnomes, or do we look at the currently somewhat stalematy battle over here? Where Royalsard is putting up a surprisingly good fight against 100,000 enemies. Like, they took the morale right down. But did eventually lose. Meanwhile, Adenica still pushing down here. They've got Encardia and Small Country forces supporting them. Small Country infantry with Adenica cavalry would be pretty dangerous. Although I still maintain that the Gnomes plus Small Country is a bigger threat. In fact, my favourite combination would still be Small Country and Ovdal Kanzad. Small Country, just hordes of mercenary infantry with Ovdal Kanzad's artillery just sitting in the back and just popping away. Pop, 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 pop. That would be a pleasure to watch. Meanwhile, naval superiority is definitely on the Anbennar side. Oh, we've got Vern crossing over. Lorent pulling back to try to reorganize. And because the naval superiority is on Vern's side, they're going to be able to cross here pretty much at will, which is going to make counterattacks by the Lorentish side actually more difficult, because they're going to have to go all the way around to threaten these territories, whereas Vern just needs to go across here. But it's okay, guys. Naval isn't very important. Doesn't really have much of a bearing. Looming disaster. Oh. Well, the gnomes are trying to rally again. They still have a significant amount of manpower. Although, actually, Bjarnrik doesn't have that much more. If the gnomes can force a good battle or two, then they might well be able to stick in this fight. What size ships are the boat dwarves best specialised in? Heavy, I think. But I'd actually quite like to see that bonus be bigger. Is Optal Tunga still alive? No. So we can't check. Alas. Meanwhile, Kryanvar starting to move troops over. Thinking about jumping in on this conflict. Meanwhile, Vern has a large army sitting there. What's the combat width these days? Combat width is 29, so they have exactly 29 artillery. We have the Lorentish Navy sallying forth against the Vernian one, and it does look like the Lorentish are winning because they have more galleys. And there's a 15 stack just sitting here. They haven't realised that there's a battle going on. Necklife coming in with some reinforcements. Lorent being forced to withdraw just as Vern woke up to the potential threat. Nice attempt there. They did manage to sink quite a few ships, I suspect. Oh, man. How many ships? How many? Huzzah! Ebethil has 85 heavy ships against Lorent's 18. I'm surprised they did as well as they did, although it doesn't look like Ebethil's gotten too heavily involved in this conflict yet, and in fact it looks like they're keeping quite a few troops back at the moment. Is that a wizard by any chance? It is. 4864. Elson, thank you very much for the 44-month resubscription. Very much appreciate that. Closing in on 4 years. Yeah, you are. You know what? Boat dwarves. They don't have a mission tree. That was the other nation that I was saying I really wish had a mission tree. And Lorent just won the naval battle. They just sent Ebethil's minions packing. And they are building more heavy ships. Well, a couple, plus a lot of soldiers' households to try and get their manpower up. Meanwhile, Vern is sending more and more troops across to go and fight against Lorent. Adenica has pieced out Luciand. And I'm just going to flip over to your side, and they managed to take 2 provinces. And Arboran took 3. Are you a vassal? Yeah, you're an Adenican vassal. Okay. So yeah, Adenica took 2, Arboran took 3. And this is now going to allow both sides to focus entirely on this big fight. We have a Lorentish army sitting here next to this Vernian one. Lorent, meanwhile, has retaken the Bay of Wines, although I think it's probably just a matter of time for when Eberthil's navy arrives and goes and deals with them. Lorent being pretty on the ball, getting those superiority battles, winning the naval fights. And they do all count, and these all have been victories. Meanwhile, Ambencost and Conwell sitting here with giant fleets of galleys, which they could probably be using in the Bay of Wines. It is an inland sea. Galleys would be pretty strong there. Meanwhile, Bjornrik's occupation continues. They are still trying to siege down the capital, which has not as yet fallen. Have we got defensive edicts going? We do not. Well, there's the problem. No defensive edicts, which is part of the reason why the forts fell so quickly. Because those defensive edicts do give a pretty hefty bonus to... Oh wait, that was from the small country's perspective. Maybe they were. Nope, still not. But it does give a pretty hefty 33% defensiveness bonus, which basically means that those forts would last for 33% longer. Each time a siege tick goes round, which is usually 38 days, that would be expended by 33%, basically. Meanwhile, battle is joined. The first major conflict between Lorent and Vern, at the moment going significantly against Lorent. Lorent coming in with a -1 against Vern's 7 shock bonus. And shock, of course, is what Lorent really wants to be doing because of their... Well, actually, Lorent has just an all-round really solid force. Lorent still with the bigger numbers present, although Vern bringing in more and more troops. 100,000 against 59,000. 105 discipline against 108, 6.2 morale against 6.1, both sides being incredibly close, although Lorent definitely being the one taking the brunt of the damage here. For some reason, Vern's army's just being better, well, for some reasons, because of the mage. Small country has apparently arrived. They're starting to bring in some infantry to help bolster the front line. Both back lines are just solid artillery at the moment, which is good, but because the small country just takes damage in significant numbers, we do have a secondary Vern force that was supposed to be in reinforcing this, which was unfortunately caught out by a significant number of Vern forces under a very good general, 3653. But this is going to be the big fight. Vern is running out of morale. Vern's army is going to be the one sent packing. It does look like Lorent's going to lose that battle, but these 40,000 troops could really have done with being over here. And Lorent's going to pull back. We do have another 30k. Small country coming in. We have another 30k. Lorentish troops available. Another 30,000 back there. Plus building all the soldiers' households, which are actually very nearly done, which will provide them with a significant boost in the number of troops available. But round 1 went to Lorent. But the question here is how many... Oh my gosh, they lost 90,000. And Vern has more manpower and lost only 67,000. 45% professionalism against 40. However, I will say that Lorent's side is probably economically the stronger. Your income is 166. Your income is 207. Plus, you have the small country on your side with 207. However, Vern has Anbencost, and at the moment Anbencost is triumphant in the Dame's Head, which means that a lot of money which should have been going to the small country is actually being cut off and is going to Arboran instead. So the true victor from this war is Arboran. At least until Kryenvar decides to jump in against somebody. Meanwhile, Adenica forces remaining primarily in the north, not looking to get too heavily involved in the Laurentish War, probably waiting for like the likes of Conwell to finish against Ashriand, and just taking out some of the other miners who are allied. 387,000 losses against 208. Lorent definitely taking the bigger hits there. What's Vern's quality like? 15-0-10 versus Lorent's 35-60-20. But unfortunately Vern just has the quality generals. I think if I was Lorent, I would try re-rolling some of these commanders. You have 99 army tradition, and these generals are not great. In fact, they're rubbish. Like, Lorent really needs to spend some points just regenning some of these. They can get between 7 and 18 pips. And the best they have right now is a 12. Yep, Lorent needs to do this badly. Get some new commanders. The whole reason that battle went as badly as it did is because of Vern's command capabilities are just significantly higher than those of Lorent right now. Meanwhile, Kryenvar has also jumped in. Kryenvar has attacked Marhold, supported by Arboran, Coruvia, Ebethil, Giberd. So this is primarily Marhold and Arboran versus Kryenvar, the Phoenix Empire, but not the Ram Dwarves. I thought the Ram Dwarves were in on this as well. Oh, meanwhile, Began's expedition has eaten up the remnants of the majority of Thieving Arrow, being fed by Kryenvar so that they can continue to colonize as much of this down here as possible. And in fact, it looks like the elves are just feeding their vassals underground, because those vassals are going to be able to make better use out of those territories. Meanwhile, we have got another conflict up here where Vern managed to catch a small country army out and defeat it without Vern being in a position to really react and respond. And that naval advantage is just allowing them to attack from multiple different angles, and they can't be hit back at. Vern taking out the Red Glades. And Marhold already has Kryenvar armies stabbing deep into them. This time Marhold, having abandoned their Adenican allies, standing a little bit more alone. They do have Arboran. Arboran right now being entirely content to do nothing. So it looks like they're going to let Marhold crash and burn. And they're going to let Coruvia crash and burn. Which I think is not a great idea. Because Kryenvar is already probably... I think that Kryenvar is the strongest nation in the world. Yes, you could probably say that Soljast has more overall strength, but Soljast just hasn't used it in the same way that Kryenvar. Kryenvar has proven that they are capable of putting all of their power to bear. They're not even a great... Really? They're not on the great power list. I would actually place them probably as, like, second. I'd do Soljast, Kryenvar, Phoenix Empire, Vern, Ebethil, Lorent. In that order, personally. Meanwhile, we do indeed have another battle. We have got Lorent facing off against Vern. Lorent has not gotten a better commander. Vern, however, does. Vern is coming in with their mage commander, although Lorent's shock general has taken over, so that difference is now rather reduced than previous. 6.6 morale against 6.1, so Lorent has managed to boost up the strength of their military, and now the losses are a little bit closer. Lorent, being closer to home, I think is going to have a slightly easier time bringing in reinforcements, but Vern is still going to be able to support. They do have another 80,000 on the way. Lorent still has a whole bunch of troops back there. 90,000 against 78. They're losing 3,000 men a tick, though. Ouch! In the fire phase, Lorent does better. In the shock phase, Vern does a lot better. And I think it's all down to that wizard. So despite the fact that Lorent does have a general that can counteract some of the effects of that wizard, it's still hurting like hell. I was going to say part of this is also because small countries in the front line, but no, they're not. This is still primarily Lorent in the front line. Oh, they have gnolls as well. Do gnolls increase shock? We'll need to take a look at that for Vern, because I do know that they had that as well. And then Arboran is abandoning Marhold to go after the small country. That is a heck of a betrayal. Marhold has been reliant pretty much on their allies to keep them alive, but after they abandoned Anbennar by supporting Corin instead of the Regent Court, Marhold basically signed their own death warrant, and then Arboran showing their true colours by not going to the assistance of their former ally and instead going after the small country who is currently busily fighting in the League War. And that does mean that Kryenvar is going to have a free reign after Marhold and Karuvia, which is what we imagined would happen at the very beginning of this session, where we said it's going to be Kryenvar that benefits from the fact that there is no Karuvian player right now. They're going to be the ones that take all the territory here, and they are. And then the League War, which thankfully has kicked off, and I'm so glad it did, because usually players just avoid this, has resulted in another Lorentish win. Vern once again sent packing, despite the strength of that wizard. But the question here for Lorent is going to be, can they maintain these levels of losses? I have a bad feeling that they can't. Vern has double the manpower that Lorent has at the moment. Yes, they have the small country on their side, but the small country is going to be dealing with Arboran. I do somewhat feel that this could turn around and turn into a small country victory, because it is just Arboran coming in to attack them, and I don't rate Arboran's armies that highly. If Lorent decides to turn around and start helping small country against Arboran, that could still end very badly for Arboran. Did Anbennar join? Yes. So Arboran's going to be fighting a war on two fronts. Anbennar, which until this point has not really gotten involved in the League War. I think that they're going to feel, in fact I know, that Anbennar is pissed with Arboran. Now I know that the players have changed, but the geopolitical situation hasn't. And Anbennar is going to be wanting to get some revenge from previous Arboran betrayals. And is most likely to go gunning after them. Although at the moment they don't seem to be doing that much. Meanwhile, we've got Vern armies going after these smaller Covenblad units. Just getting their superiority. We've got a Lorentish army standing very close by. And if Lorent can take this fort, then they'll be able to control a little bit more about the crossings. We have got Lorentish Navy coming in. 15 heavies against the Vernish one, but the Vern just has too many ships around. I'm a little bit surprised that we are seeing as little of Ebethil as we are. I would have expected Ebethil's huge navy to just blockade Lorent. Lorent's been given far too much free reign for their navies to jump around and try and intervene. Maybe they're hoping that they'll overextend and try to clear out Anbennar navies, but so far that hasn't happened. Meanwhile, we've got small country fighting against Arboran, 60,000 against 70,000. Small country with loads more units able to come in and reinforce. We've got Conwell sitting just a little bit back there, going to defend Vertask. Doesn't look like small country is going to invest too much in this fight. That might not be right. No artillery in this fight, so small country still not really using their artillery stacks. Oh no, there it is. Coming in with artillery, coming in with more infantry, but I think they're timing these reinforcement waves really poorly, and this is just allowing Arboran to just butcher their units, although they're not actually having to pay too much. But then their artillery arrives completely unsupported, and the artillery is now in the front line and the infantry is in the back line. Other way round. Small country, infantry first, then artillery. Not artillery, then infantry, but I get it. It's hard to manage that because the armies are split, because you can't really properly attach those artillery to infantry units. Although Arboran did just win that fight, we're going to have a 22k stack that is going to walk in and get pretty much butchered. And that was a good victory for Arboran there. And unfortunately, small country will have lost basically their entire artillery company. Now, they do have a lot of manpower, and their manpower is only going to be reinforcing this because the rest of their army is mercenary. But that's still going to sting. Because I told him last time you need to have a separate artillery stack, which he's done, so he listened. But didn't use it very well. So the secret here, by the way, is to have your artillery stack attached to a mercenary stack. So you basically want to have this button here ticked, and you want to have it attached to a mercenary stack, preferably your biggest one. And then you want to have your general for the artillery, make sure that they have less maneuver than whoever the general is for your infantry. Then the infantry can join the fight, then the artillery come in just after. You just need to make sure that you don't separate them too much as they're marching around. Meanwhile, Gnomish hierarchy is almost fully sieged down by the Bjornrik. There is a battle going on here, 60,000 against 20. Gnomish hierarchy apparently not reinforcing, which seems like an odd choice. They're just going to let this unit get butchered. They do not have a full supporting line of artillery, and they are just going to take all of the damage. It kind of looks like Faceless is pretty much thrown in the towel by the fact that none of these guys are supporting that fight at all. Meanwhile, Lorent has pulled their forces back from the main fight against Vern, probably to let Vern have a counterattack. Meanwhile, Anbennar is somewhere. Where's your army, Anbennar? Oh, Anbennar's pushing down into Conwell. Interesting decision. So Anbennar's hitting the back of Conwell. They're coming in against Vern's minions and beating them up hard. Anbennar not with a huge amount of manpower. See, Anbennar I think would want to leave the sieging to Small Country because they have the manpower to throw into this, and then have Anbennar coming in to win the actual battles like these. I think it's a mistake that Small Country is fighting this independently. Although they may not be able to get there because of all of the forts in the way. That's true. However, one person that could get there is Lorent. So unfortunately, like last week we saw really good communication between players. We saw a lot of cooperative management. This time we're seeing a lot of every man for themselves. Barely any cooperation whatsoever. Meanwhile, Arboran is continuing to pile troops into the fight against Small Country. Small Country again sent packing, timing their reinforcements just really poorly. I mean, I get it. I struggle with that as well. And once again, the artillery sent packing. Oh no, and it looks like he's consolidated his artillery rather than shift consolidate. Whoops. Maybe having some input lag issues there as well. Meanwhile, Vern seems to have just sent a Lorentish army packing. Lorent not moving forwards to go and support. Marhold, meanwhile, has unconditionaled to Kreinvar. Abandoned as they were by their allies, but I think that honestly is on Marhold because they did some very, very poor diplomatic maneuvers. And this is just going to allow the elves to just expand and expand. I wouldn't be surprised if... wait, is Karuvia in a separate war, or is this actually against Marhold? I'm looking at the wrong nation. This was against Marhold, so they may not be able to take that much from Karuvia here. And Everthil, again, not lifting a finger. That's a lot of forts, jeez. Although Everthil isn't so much known for their armies as for the navies. Although they have a big frickin' army, they're just not using them. They could get a lot of marines. Wow, 17. With 17 marines, you could actually do something with that. The problem with marines is usually you have like 3